Every day, Donald Trump's stooges wake up and prove two things: that they are willing to defend the indefensible when it comes to Donald Trump's mass deportation plan, his illegal mass deportation plan, but they also prove that they're not very good at it, that there are a million holes in their arguments. You can't even call them arguments in their lies, and they get especially upset when those lies are called out. And that is exactly what happened today at the Fox propaganda outlet, where Judge, I don't know if we can call her that after what she said, Jeanine Pirro, was ripped to shreds by Jessica Tarlov, who pointed out the obvious lies in her defense of Donald Trump. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into Jessica's takedown, Jamie Raskin also delivered a brutal takedown of one of the key arguments that MAGA tries to make about that, and I want to take a look right here.
When he said, turn the plane around, bring back the bad guys, bring back the illegal migrants in this terrorist organization, turn the plane around, bring them back, that makes no sense. Makes no sense, and the American people understand it. So I want to thank Mr. Issa for this good piece of legislation that we passed out of the committee, I think, 4 weeks ago. I want to thank Representative Schmidt, who added the good amendment to it that I think makes a good bill even stronger. And I would urge adoption of the legislation. With that, I yield back to our chairman.
Just to answer a couple of things raised by my friend from Ohio. First of all, that's not what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court simply said that this was not a case that should be going through the Administrative Procedure Act under the Immigration and Naturalization Act. It should be done through habeas corpus in the District of Confinement in Texas. So, in effect, the Supreme Court affirmed that there must be due process for people who were illegally taken out of this country and sent to El Salvador. Secondly, the gentleman gives us a false choice when he says, well, who gets to decide? Is it the person who puts his name on the ballot and goes out and campaigns, or is it an unelected federal district judge? Well, decide what? If we're talking about deciding the constitutionality of a law, obviously it's the judge under Marbury versus Madison. And I know the distinguished chairman of the Judiciary Committee knows that. The fact that Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris by 2 million votes is neither here nor there. Joe Biden beat Donald Trump by 7 million votes, and they still went to court pretty much on a weekly basis to try to get Joe Biden's legislation and his program struck down. They believed in judicial review then. And so we should understand that it's very convenient for them to say all of a sudden they don't believe in judicial review just because they've got the presidency.
MAGA is so quick to cry activist judges, to say, oh, Donald Trump, he's seen the most injunctions of any president in history. What could this possibly be about? Maybe all the law breaking. Have you ever stopped and considered that for a second, that he breaks more laws than any president in American history? I am so glad Jamie Raskin has pointed out that Republicans were more than happy to get behind the Supreme Court when it ruled against Joe Biden, but now that it's ruling against Donald Trump in a 9-0 decision, they have a problem with it? Yeah, that doesn't really hold up, especially in the way that Judge Jeanine tried to argue it. She was called out by Jessica Tarlov right here.
And now the Democrats are freaking out. This guy, Van Halen, this senator, he should be ashamed of himself. If you want to go over there and you want to check on an illegal who is in this country illegally and is a member of MS-13, and you don't want to talk about Rachel Morin, who is from your state.
He did.
This is an example.
Today.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Today he figured out he should.
No, he didn't.
Let me finish. Okay? This is the problem. We've got people who belong in Congress, who've been elected to Congress, who are worried about illegal criminals and not worried about American citizens like Joe Biden. And that's the reason we're in this mess in the first place. Start caring about American citizens.
Jessica Tarlov.
Hi.
Hi.
So, Senator, now I'm going to say Van Halen because you did.
Yeah, I did.
Which makes him a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
But did speak about Rachel Morin and has since she was murdered. That first and foremost. Abrego Garcia there is no proof that he was an MS-13 member, and it has been debunked many times.
It's been debunked
yes,
by
it has.
liberal newspapers.
That's
in
not
a
true.
Court of law, a section I-113 or 123 is reliable, verifiable proof that you were a member of a gang, and he was never able to rebut it.
It was based on double hearsay testimony and also a detective who was indicted merely weeks later for providing confidential information to a sex worker. He was also allegedly an alcoholic. That's how we got into this. But the point is that this man has been living in this country, out in public, meeting on an annual basis with his DHS caseworker. He goes in once a year. He talks to them. They know where he works. He's an on-the-books worker. This is not somebody who is a gangbanger. This is not somebody who has committed any other crime besides being here in this country. And he came here also based on credible threat of being murdered by a gang at home who was threatening his entire family. The reason that Democrats are talking about the fact that anyone could, quote unquote, be disappeared is that you can see a full-blown constitutional crisis playing out in front of our eyes. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that he had to be returned. President Bukhari is lying when he says that he can't get him back. We know that he can return people because he returned people from the original shipment. There were women that were sent there, and he said, oh, no, you shouldn't be here. And there were some Venezuelans that he didn't want. He said, okay, you shouldn't be here, and he shipped them on back. They think that it's funny. Getting that hot mic moment where Donald Trump and the El Salvadorian president are talking, they're kind of loitering around at the front of the Oval Office, where they're joking about, like, oh, wouldn't it be great if you could take our homegrown ones? You cannot legally send Americans to an El Salvadorian prison camp, no matter what they have done. Senator Kennedy was on our air earlier this afternoon with Sandra and John and said as much.
Okay.
You look at, one more thing to say. Actually, multiple more things to say. But what is most important is that under the Alien Enemies Act, you deserve due process. And that's what the Supreme Court ruled. And if you go back to World War II, when we were invoking this same act, that people who were here undocumented from Japan, from Germany, from Italy, were allowed to go into a court where they could argue that they weren't a danger to this nation. Abrego Garcia was not afforded that right to come into court and to argue as to why he should not be deported. And it is not the same thing to deport someone to their home country as to send them to a prison.
Well, then you know that. First of all,
we have to strip away the judge title. If Jeanine Pirro doesn't even understand what the Supreme Court ruled on and how they ruled in the case of Abrego Garcia, or maybe she just is feigning ignorance. She pretends that she doesn't know. She doesn't actually care. It could be either of those things. It doesn't make it any better with this argument that she is presenting. Also, there is no evidence to suggest what the White House is claiming of Abrego Garcia being an MS-13 gang member is true. And what they try to lean on, as Carolyn Levitt did today, is that there have been other immigrants who have broken laws in the past, so maybe that means he did. And J.D. Vance's argument, saying that as they continue to claim this guy isn't Father of the Year, is that he had some traffic violations. Lock him up and throw away the key. He blew through a stop sign once. If that's the case, then take me with you. It's like, I'm not saying that. I have always been a very safe driver. I have never blown through a stop sign in my life. Just insanity, the argument that they are trying to make, the criminality constantly pouring out of this administration. And it's not just on the immigration plan. I feel like in all of this, we've forgotten about Elon, but Bernie hasn't, and he called him out right here.
Right now, unbelievable, as we speak, you got the wealthiest guy on earth, Mr. Musk. Mr. Musk, you don't hear about this much in the corporate media or on the halls of Congress. Mr. Musk himself owns 5 times more wealth than the bottom half of the households in America. One man. And this guy is running all over Washington, D.C., slashing the Social Security Administration. And what that means is elderly and disabled people will find it increasingly difficult to get the benefits they paid into. This guy is proposing to cut 83,000 jobs from the Veterans Administration. These are the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend our country. We owe them everything. And we're not going to allow Musk and his friends to cut VA benefits. And when we talk about oligarchy, it's not just economic power, it is political power. Right now, in this last election, Musk spent $270 million to elect Donald Trump as president. You get one vote, you get one vote. Musk gets one vote plus $270 million to elect Trump, and his reward is to become the most powerful person in government. But it is not just Musk and the Republican Party. The Democrats have their billionaires as well. And if you want to know why the Democrats over the years have not been as strong as they should be in standing up for working class people, it has a lot to do with the power of those billionaires. So I know that I speak not just for progressives or moderates or conservatives. I think I speak for every American who understands that in our democracy, we cannot allow billionaires to buy elections.
This is the goal, though, of the Trump administration, as Steve Bannon always says, to flood the zone. They want as much BS out there as possible, so we cannot stay focused on their individual attacks on our democracy, on our social security, on the judiciary. They need us distracted all the time, but we cannot be. We have to focus on, yes, all of these issues. We do have to focus on all of these issues. And we have to be doing the work constantly of messaging them. Certainly AOC did so right here.
We saw Marjorie Taylor Greene buy that dip. I got one question for her. How much did you make? How much did you make off of people's despair? How much did you make off that panic? How much did you make off of that suffering? No more. We can't accept it.
Corruption is such a clear message that we can deliver. I am so glad it is being carried, of course, making sense on the anti-oligarchy tour, but we have to continue to deliver it, and that's what we're going to be talking about on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.